Good morning, friends. As part of this lecture series, Ethics in Maha Bharata, today I would like to tell the episode of Ksheerasagara Mathanam, that is churning of the ocean. As I told in my previous lectures, there are two objectives in mind. The first objective is to narrate the story as it is, that is available from the original text. For those who have not studied the original text. And the second objective is obviously to take that particular story or episode as an illustration or case study and discuss ethical issues. The story today, what I am going to tell is about the churning of the ocean by the gods and demons. Here, the broad structure of the story is when these two persons together, they came for the common cause of churning the ocean. When the nectar or Amrit emerged out, the gods took it and they did not give it to the demons. How is it ethically correct? Because when the fruits of labor are to be distributed to all the people. So what is the significance of this story? So this is the story. Let us read the story first. Let us see the story first, and then let us discuss the ethical issues. Before starting the story, I would like to tell that this story has been mentioned in Vyasa Maha Bharata, Bhagavatam, and some Puranas, and Ramayanam, and all these places the story is there because this story is of having mythological significance that took place long years back. That is Chachusha Manvantara, they tell in the story. Now we are in Vaivashuta Manvantara. Each Manvantara is consisting of 1000 Mahayugas. Each Mahayuga is consisting of 4 yugas. Kruta Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. Like that long years back. That is Chachusha Manvantara means must be around some 30 crores years back. The story was like this. The story is embedded in all these Puranas and all these things for a specific purpose. The purpose we will be discussing in the later part of this narration of this entire story. So here, the story goes like this. Initially, there was a fighting between gods and demons. Who are gods and demons after all? Gods and demons are, they were born to the same father only, Kashyapa Prajapati. Kashyapa Prajapati was having 2 wives, one is Diti and one is Aditi. With Diti, he had got Daityas who are Rakshasas. With Aditi, he got Adityas, that is Devas, gods. Both gods and these persons were after all brothers only. But they were fighting together in those days also. The fighting between brothers was there. When the fighting was happening, the demons were always aggressive and they were defeating the Devas because Devas were having some curse by Durvasa Maharshi. All that part I am not discussing. So when gods were getting defeated by Asuras, they approached Sri Mahavishnu. Sri Mahavishnu suggested them that you take the help of Asuras also, that is demons also, and churn the ocean, because churning of the ocean by gods alone is too difficult. It is a Herculean task. You take the help of those persons also. So they went to demons and they requested, after all we are all brothers, why don't you also help us in churning this ocean? They agreed. All people came to the Ksheerasagara. Ksheerasagara is milky ocean, ocean of milk. In those days, they used to believe that there are 7 oceans were there. Lavana, Ichu, Sura, Sarpi, Dadit, Kshira, Jalarnava, like that. So this is also Ksheerasagara is ocean of the milk. The ocean of the milk, they came there and they wanted to put Mandhara as the churning rod, Mandhara Parvata as the churning rod. So they could not able to lift it. Then Sri Mahavishnu only helped them. He came there and he physically lifted that Mandhara Parvata, and then the Mandhara Parvata was inserted into the Ksheerasagara. And then the rope was, the churning rope is also required. So that is for that purpose, they took the help of Vasuki. Vasuki is a great long serpent. Vasuki, on one side there were Devas and on one side there were Asuras. Initially, the head portion was held by gods. Then these demons came and they protested, we want the head portion and it is demeaning our dignity. And so they were having a lot of pride because they are having some lot of ego over their strength. So they wanted to hold the head portion only. There's no problem for gods. They took the tail portion. But it was a blessing in disguise for gods. Why? Because when the actual churning took place, the head portion was having the mouth of the Vasuki and it was emitting a lot of poison. It was coming out and it was killing a lot of demons. But it was agreed upon and both were churning the ocean. Initially, the halahal came out. Halahal means the great poison. The great poison emerged out of the churning of the ocean. When it came out, it was frightening the entire world. So people were trembling across the world. So the gods and demons went to Shiva and they requested him, please help me, help us. Then Shiva took out the entire this Visham or what we can call poison into his palm and he gulped it. And without taking it inside the stomach, he kept it in the neck only. And so that all words should not get scorched. So because of this reason, he is even now also we call him as Neelakanta. Ishvara is called as Neelakanta because he is having that coloring aspect in this neck. So then the sending process went on for some more years. When it was going on for some more years, the moon god came out, Chandra came out. The moon god was given to Ishvara only because he has to give some coolness to Ishvara. So Ishvara adored Chandra on his head. Then the churning process went on. Then Lakshmi came out, the goddess of wealth came out. She wanted to marry Sri Mahavishnu and she was married. And then in the process, what happened was that when the churning was going on, the entire Mandara Parvata was sinking in deep into the waters. Then at the time, again, Sri Mahavishnu came in the form of Kurmavatara, the form of tortoise he came. One of the avatars of Sri Mahavishnu, Matsya Kurma Varaha, Narasimhasya Vamana. We'll be telling that entire shloka. Matsya Kurma Varaha. This is a Kurma Avatara. He came in the form of a tortoise. He came in the form of a tortoise, went deep into the waters. He was holding the entire Mandara mountain on his back. So that the churning can easily happen. They were churning the ocean. When the churning was going on again, and again, so many other things also came out. Parijata came out, Kalpavrusha came out, a great horse came out, Uchchaishrava came out, Airavata, a great elephant came out, Alashmi came out. And then like this, so many things are described in different places. Of course, there are some variations in different Puranas and also Maha Bharata and Bharata. The narrative is, of course, the same way only it is there. So all these things were distributed between among gods on one side and demons on other side. So there is absolutely no problem. It went on very well. When the things were going on very well, ultimately at the end, there came up the god of Dhanvantari with the pot of Amruta. That is Amruta Kalasha. He came out, the pot of nectar he came out. When he came out like that, there was a scrambling. There was a scramble for taking out that Amruta. Everybody was interested in having that Amrutam because once that is eaten, what will happen is that once that is drunk, what will happen is that the person is never going to die. He is going to become immortal. So there was a scramble for it. Asuras at the time, the demons immediately pounced upon this Dhanvantari, caught hold of that entire pot, they snatched it from his hands and took to some secluded place and they started fighting among themselves. They did not take it again. The irony is that they did not take it. They were fighting among themselves. Me first, like that they were fighting. Gods could not go there. That was the situation. There was pell-mell condition, lot of confusion, there were a lot of cries. Everybody was shouting, it is for me, it is for me. This was the situation. At the time, Sri Mahavishnu came there in the form of Jagan Mohini. Jagan Mohini, she was a very beautiful, enchanting lady she came. Like that she came. When she came like that, all gods looked upon her as a Matrumurti. Because they were looking at her as if she was a goddess of mother. But all Asuras looked at her with the lust. They were looking at her with with eyes white shut like that. We can be telling now eyes white shut like that. They came there. They were looking at her only, unable to take out their eyes from the sight of that lady. They were so much pleased with that lady. They approached her and they told her, "We are the sons of Kashyapa Prajapati. We are the leaders of this entire world. We want to have you because we love you." Like that, they approached her. That lady smiled at them and she was there only. And at that time, they came there and they were ready to give the pot of Kalasha, Amrita Kalasha to her. And they told, "We believe you. Please distribute this entire Amrutam to all of us." Then she told, "I am a new person. You never saw me. How do you believe as me?" Then they told, "You are so beautiful, lady. And we believe that your mind is also very beautiful. You must be a very great person. You never deceive us." So in that way, what they told is they handed over the pot also to that lady. Then the lady told, "When I am distributing, if something goes wrong, you should not blame me." Yes, they agreed. Then she asked, "All of you go, have bath and come back. So I distribute to all of you." Then both guards and demons went to rivers, had their bath, came back again, and they were asked to sit in two rows. On one side, guards, and one side, demons were there. And she started distributing the Amrutam. When she started distributing the Amrutam, there are some places it is written down that she asked all the people to shut their eyes so that she will be distributing. There and some other places they were opening their eyes only and looking at her. Like that it is mentioned. Anyway, the narrative is same. When she started distributing on the side of the guards, all demons looked at her, but they did not protest. Why they did not protest? Because if they protest, why are you distributing there only? Why are you not coming here if they protest? She may not talk to them in the future. But they want to have her. Their interest is more inclined towards her than on the Amrutam now. That was the situation. So their discriminative intellect has failed in them. So they were just looking at her, hoping that she will come here and distribute. By the time she was distributing the entire Amrutam on the side of gods only. Rahu, one demon, saw this entire thing. He was having some intellect. So immediately he thought there must be something happening here. Immediately he came out. He came in the form of a god and sat in between moon and sun. He was sitting like that. When he was sitting like that, Mohini came there. He was putting all people this Amrutam and she put the Amrutam to his bowl also. Immediately he gulped it. When he gulped it, this Surya and Chandra, the moon god and sun god, gave a signal to Sri Mahavishnu that this person is not God. Immediately the Mohini assumed the form of Sri Mahavishnu, took the Sudarshana Chakram and cut off his head. Because the nectar has not gone deep into his stomach. It was still there in the mouth only. At the stage he cut off. Because of this reason, the torso fell down, dead. The upper portion of the head, this is intact. This is alive all the time because Amrit is there inside. So from that time onwards, Rahu had grudge with both sun and moon, and he wanted to gulp them. When he wanted to gulp them, he used to go there, wanted to devour them. He devours them. Once he devours them, the sun and moon will come out from his neck only. So this is what we in the tradition we believe that this is lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. At the time, Rahu will be devouring this Chandra or Surya. Because of this reason, Surya Grahana is coming or Chandra Grahana is coming, solar eclipse is coming, or lunar eclipse is coming, like that we believe. Anyway, the belief portion, leave it like that. Then what happened was that the Asuras, all demons, they got up, they were very wild, they took up all the weapons and started fighting with the gods. But by the time, the gods became immortal because of the consumption of nectar. So they were very powerful now. They fought with Asuras and Asuras were easily defeated. And the rest of the story, I am not discussing here. This is the place I am stopping this story. What is the significance of this story? Here on the face of it, if we see it, just read the story only and leave it like that. We find that gods could not churn the entire ocean on their own. Because of this reason, they took the help of demons. Both demons and gods churned the ocean. At the end of churning of the ocean, the nectar emerged. The nectar was taken by gods. The fruits of labor were denied to Asuras. How far it is ethically correct? So this is in order to understand this story. This is a mythological story. It is not part and parcel of, even though it is there in Maha Bharata Itihasa, it happened long years back. Why the story has been repeatedly mentioned both in Mahabharata, Mahabhagavata, and also in some other Puranas, Ramayana, and all these places is that the symbolic significance that is available in this story. If we understand the symbolic significance of this story, it can dispel the myth that there is no ethical violation or ethical violation has not happened. Let us see how to understand this story. In order to understand any Puranas normally or Itihasas, they are actually written by these persons, sages. Vyasa is written Mahabharata or Mahabhagavata, not to tell some stories to ordinary children. It is meant to disseminate the tools that are available in Vedas. That is the idea, because the Vedic ideas can be understood by jnanis, intellectual people only. Normal people cannot able to understand. Normal common people cannot understand these tools that are embedded in Vedas. That are to be explained to the common people in the form of story again, as an illustration. So that is why this story has been built up. Here let us see the purpose of Puranas is to explain the subtle thoughts of Vedanta in an elaborate form for common people to understand. Vedas and Puranas will be talking, Vedas will be talking the truths in absolute sense for intellectuals. And this, for common people purposes, Puranas are meant. This we have to have in our mind. So here, all the commentators say that the Asuras and the gods are not two different persons. They represent two thoughts that are available in the mind of the man, human being. One is bad things are there on one side and good things are there on the other side. They will be fighting all the time. Churning will be happening in the mind, the ocean of the mind. I can give you an example. You want to write a competitive examination. Syllabus is too huge. Time is too short. You don't have time to read also. At the time, two thoughts will be always emerging. One thought will always be telling you that you wake up early in the morning, 3 o'clock, read well, write the examination, prepare it for at least 2-3 months like that. There is one more thought will always be telling, happily take rest. Tamogunam, happily take rest. On the day of examination, take a small sheet, write the examination and come back. These two thoughts will be there. At the time, you need to discriminate which thought you have to give importance. Ethical means and ethical ends we will be talking. Ethical means are to be followed in order to attain an ethical objective. So if you take like that, so what you have to do is that you should not nurture or nourish the bad thoughts at any point of time, but you should always promote the good thoughts. When you promote the good thoughts, you should not give any support to the bad thoughts. When a bad thought is emerging out, you have to suppress it all the time. But the discussion will be happening, that is there. So here also Asuras are on one side and gods are on the other side. They are not two different bodies or two different personalities or different groups of persons. They are good thoughts and bad thoughts only. They will be always fighting in the mind. When they are fighting in the mind, support the good thoughts. This is the idea of the entire story. Then how do you say like this? Is there any commentary? Yes, that is there. Here, let us see the commentaries of the great people. Here, one great scholar, Vedantic scholar, Dr. Karanam Aravindrao, in one of his books, the book is How to Teach Hinduism to Your Child. In that book, he has mentioned who are Devas and who was Asuras. He was again taking the quotation of Vidyaranya's Sayana Bhashya, and he was describing who are Devas. Devaha Shastrodbhasita Indriya Vrittayaha Asuraha Tadviparitaha. What do you mean by that? Devaha Shastrodbhasita Indriya Vrittayaha means the thoughts purified by the scriptures, by reading the scriptures are gods. The cruel, devilish, ugly, and unrefined thoughts represent Asuras. This is there. This is the definition of Vidyaranya quoted by Dr. K. Arvindarao. And then one more quote is Ashushu Ramante iti Asuraha, which means that those who dwell in sensual pleasures are the demons. So here the demons story, if you take into consideration, the demons were exhibiting all this, what is called Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. Kama is desire, Krodha means anger, Lobha is desire. All these things, these three things are there in the Asuras. What they were doing? They were actually, they were having the desire or lust towards that lady who is very new. They were prepared to hand over the part of Amruta to a lady whom they have never seen earlier. That was the situation, Kama. They were very angry with gods, and they wanted to have the entire Amrut for their only. Because of this reason, they snatched the part, and they were fighting among themselves for the purpose of drinking it again. Again, there is a greed there. So these qualities represent the demons. Good qualities are represented by gods. This is how it is there. There is one more beautiful shloka we come across in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, 21st shloka. It says, Trividham narakasyedam dwaram ashanamatmanaha kama krodha tada lobha tasmat etatrayam tyajet. There are three gateways for naraka. Naraka means hell. What are those things? One is kama, one is krodha, and one is lobha. Kama is lust, anger, and greed. These are the three things. Together, this lust, greed, and anger, they are the foundations from which the demonic vices normally crop up. They first fester in the mind and make it a suitable ground for all other vices to crop up and come up, take root. So because of this reason, these three things are to be avoided. But these three things were there in Asuras. These three things we should never nourish and nurture. There is one more good place is there, because in order to understand Maha Bharata, Ramayana, or any other scripture, you need to see how they were portrayed in Upanishads. In Upanishads, there is a discussion in Chandogya Upanishad. In Chandogya Upanishad 1-2-1. Again here, Shankaracharya, while writing the Bhashyam, he says, the battle between gods and demons is a symbolic description of the battle between good and bad in our own minds. Like that he has specifically mentioned. So whenever we want to interpret in Mahabharata, Ramayana, or any other scripture, we need to interpret it according to the dictums of Vedas only. Vedas and Puranas, we cannot able to easily understand, need to depend upon commentaries of Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, those type of people. Here Shankaracharya Bhashya in commentary has very specifically, very clearly, very frankly, he says that these two personalities are not two groups of persons. These are two types of ideas which are there in the mind of a man, and they will be always fighting, always suppress the bad thoughts, always nourish and protect the great thoughts, good thoughts. This is the idea. Because here, and again, there is one way some people will be unnecessarily commenting that Asuras are Shudras. It is also misinterpretation only. Asuras are not Shudras, because many Asuras Brahmins are there in Asuras. That is also there. So here, the basic idea of this entire story is that if dharma is destroyed, it signifies tearing the ethical fabric of the entire society. So dharma should not be destroyed. Because of this reason, never ever support the bad thoughts in your mind. Only support and nurture the good thoughts. That is gods, represented by gods. This is the idea of this entire story. So With this, I would like to conclude the story. We have to understand the story in this form. If you understand this form in this form, there is no ethical violation in the entire story, because denying the fruits of labor to Asuras is quite acceptable, because that is going to do ethical damage for the entire society. That is the idea. And if you want to read this story aspect, that is called illustration aspect of this particular story, you can always visit my blog, unclekatha.com, UNCLEKATHA.com, wherein I have described this entire story. I have written down this entire story. You can read the story and interpret it for the discussions and all these things according to the mind of Veda Vyasa, according to the mind of the commentators, like that we need to interpret it. With this, I would like to close the discussion for this day. Thank you, all of you. Before thanking, also, of course, again, I need all of you to put your comments in the comment box so that I can able to improve this lecture series of Mahabharata in future. Thank you, all of you. Thank you all.